Hey everybody, it's Glenn, back in this video with Hasbro's Star Wars Black Series KYLO REN. It eluded me on the Force Friday midnight opening that I attended, but I've since picked it up at Forbidden Planet in Glasgow. Plus I've also snagged the Star Wars Elite Series KYLO REN, a series that seemingly snuck up on us out of nowhere. As we look at the packaging of the Elite KYLO, two factors of note are that firstly, it is an exclusive to the Disney store, and secondly, it's not a plastic action figure but die-cast. And that store exclusivity and them being die-cast is probably how these circumvent Hasbro's licensing for Star Wars action figures. Also available in the Elite series are Finn, then Rey, who comes with BB-8, plus the First Order Stormtrooper and the First Order Flametrooper, and finally Captain Phasma, which I also picked up. That same character is set to be released in the next wave of Hasbro's Black series, so stay tuned and you may just see a comparison of those two just like this one. Let's look at the Elite packaging back to see what they're about. In collaboration with Lucasfilm, Disney Store is proud to introduce the Star Wars Elite series, a premium line of die-cast action figures featuring iconic characters from the expansive world of Star Wars. That's interesting. That makes it sound like the door might be open to them making characters from the original and prequel trilogies. But word of advice, learn from Hasbro's Black series mistakes and maybe leave Slave Leia to the imagination and not to warm pegs for all eternity. This exclusive collection is meticulously engineered and crafted with Star Wars fans in mind. Beneath that we get a brief blurb about KYLO REN. It is word for word identical to that on the Black Series packaging. It reads, "A dark warrior strong with the Force, KYLO REN commands First Order missions with a temper as fiery as his unconventional lightsaber." Looking at this price sticker, an Elite KYLO REN set me back £18.95 or €24.90 if you're on the continent. Then research tells me in the US it'll set you back $24.95. Not sure of the pricing outside of the UK of Hasbro's Black series, but $18.95 makes the Elite cheaper than the Black series, which I bought for $21.99. Comparing the packaging, not that I condone keeping figures packaged, of course, set them free. But if you do like to keep them packaged, I'd say the Elite series packaging is better, presenting the figure much more nicely. But then both the packages can be easily opened in a way without damaging them, meaning you can still play and display with the figure yet keep the packaging on standby if you want to reinsert the figure. And here they are, both free from that packaging, and you know how my action figure comparisons work. We're going to take a look at the various aspects of each one, comparing the sculpt, deco, accessories and articulation to declare a victor of the comparison at the end of the video. Side by side and immediately noticeable is the difference in size, with the Black Series one coming in at pretty much an even 6 inches and the Elite Series measuring a shade under 7.5 inches. Taking a closer look, and Hasbro's use of fabric is striking. On a 6-inch scale using fabric is dicey, as often it can look oversized and clumsy. This doesn't suffer from that so much, but looking at it, the perforated texture of it instantly makes me think of the mesh of an American football shirt, or maybe even a tea bag. Visually, it doesn't fit well with the parts of the robes that have been rendered in rubber. The robes of the Elite Series 1 are uniform, the skirt and hooded cloak parts are made of a rubber or plastic, yet subtly in the sculpt of them you can see the textile of the fabric further highlighted by some dry brushing in the deco. Sadly, it's a texture missing in the torso, plus it's a real shame that you can see that kind of careful consideration of the treatment of the robes next to this ugly screw hole. And lifting up his cape you see more, which if you're buying the other figures, keep in mind they don't all have capes to hide that kind of ugliness. Taking a closer look, and this is where I say on this scale fabric doesn't work. I mean, I know some collectors like to pretend like adding soft goods to a mass market 6-inch figure makes it Hot Toys quality, but as a hood on this scale, the fibers of it don't fold in the way that they should, and in a way that the Elite Series hoods does, in that the folds are sculpted in. Of course, the benefit of the fabric is that it can be folded back to reveal KYLO REN's helmet, the sculpt of which has an Imperial style lip to it in the back. With the Elite hood and cloak, it maybe seems like you could wrestle it off, but seems like it would be an effort. Looking at the belts, and I like the belt of the Elite one, with it being painted with a glossiness that nicely contrasts the flatter look of the robes. Then I noticed the silver kind of belt buckle detail Hasbro painted on theirs, which made me like, Elite, where's that detail on yours? But then I looked at pictures of the actual costume that was shown at that Disney Expo a month or so back, and that's a detail that it doesn't actually have. Holding the Elite in hand, and you might be surprised by the weight it has to it, what with it being die cast. A downside to that is that the torso is a serious chunk of metal. That makes the figure a bit top heavy, but for more stability it does come with a plastic display base. It has Star Wars written on it and a peg that fits into the bottom of the right foot. Then of course they both come with a lightsaber as an accessory, both rendered with some translucence to the plastic. I'd say I prefer the deeper red of the Elite lightsaber, but then the sculpt of the Hasbro one is superior. They've captured more of the look of pulsing energy to it, making it a bit more looking, know what I mean? Whereas Elite's is just straight up and down. Plus the blade of the Hasbro one can be removed. Well, I think it can. Yep, there you go. That fits snugly in the hand, presenting a different display option for a more relaxed look. Then also pose like this when he's ready for battle. We'll get to articulation in a bit, but for real dynamic posing, the arm articulation does let the figure down. The fit of the Elite's lightsaber in the hand is incredibly loose. It's not being held by the hand at all, really. Instead, it's just balancing in there. It comes packaged with a clear band securing it to the hand, and that might be something you don't want to remove, as like this, the slightest knock sends it falling out of his hand. While the Hasbro Black Series KYLO REN can hold the lightsaber in either hand, I do like with the Elite one they've kept one of his hands open and posed more gesturally. Now looking at articulation, and the heads of each both rotate, but the Black Series more so, but then the Elite one is able to look up and down slightly, whereas surprisingly the Black Series one doesn't seem to at all. The left arm of the Black Series one is able to do a full rotation at the shoulder, whereas the right arm is more limited by the way the cloak hangs over the shoulder. Then the arms are able to hinge up to about a right angle to the body. Then there's rotation at the elbow and a hinge, but this only brings the lower arm to less than a right angle to the upper arm. Let's twist it and see if that's better. Nope, still the same. Then at the wrist there's rotation, and the hands are also hinged on the top and bottom, moving the hand down and up. At the shoulder, the Elite one's arms are able to rotate somewhat, but are inhibited by the sculpt there, and then they move up again to pretty much a right angle to the body like the Black Series. Then just a single jointed elbow, but it does articulate the lower arm to just slightly more than a right angle to the upper arm. Then the hand rotates at the wrist. Then just rotation at the waist, whereas the Black Series one has waist rotation. Then it seems like the fabric is hiding an ab crunch under there, which moves the upper torso forwards and backwards. Under their respective skirts, the legs are able to move out to the side this much, then they both move forward, the Black Series one more so, but then neither really move back. The Black Series one has upper leg rotation, whereas the Elite one doesn't. The Black Series has a double jointed knee, whereas the Elite is just single jointed. Then at the ankles, both are hinged, moving the feet backwards and forwards, but the Elite's foot just rotates, whereas the Hasbro one has that awesome ankle rocker pivot that I love. So yes, it's able to strike a wide stance, but when it comes to these lightsaber wielding characters, Hasbro really need to focus the articulation on the arms, because a double jointed elbow would make so much difference when it comes to the dynamics of posing. And I think now more than ever, it's important for Hasbro with its Black Series to fine tune and perfect the superposability, because with this Elite Series now entering the market, I feel like the Elites are beating Black Series when it comes to sculpt and deco. I mean, yes, the Black Series is better articulated, but the margin in articulation between these two series isn't wide enough to dissuade me from picking a better sculpted figure, which I believe is the Elite Series. Let me know in the comments below if you pick Elite Series or Black Series. I score it as sculpt and deco with the Elite Series, articulation and accessories with the Black Series, so really it boils down to how much emphasis you place on those things. Really, the distinction between these two lines will be very familiar to Marvel action figure collectors, with the same distinction being encapsulated by the Marvel Legends and Marvel Select lines, with Hasbro's Black Series very much treading the ground of their very own Marvel Legends, and the Elite Series treading the ground of Diamond Select's Marvel Select. As I said at the top of the video, I wasn't lucky enough to stumble across the Black Series KYLO REN on Force Friday, but click the video on the right to see just what goodies I did behold. As ever, I sure would appreciate it if you could give this video a big thumbs up. Stay tuned, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.